Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into a secret language that is likely happening right under your nose. We're talking about the silent and honestly almost always misunderstood ways our feline friends show jealousy. If you're used to the dramatic flair of dogs, you're probably missing exactly what your cat is trying to tell you.
So if you've ever felt like your cat was acting just a little bit, off after a new partner, a new baby, or maybe a new pet entered your home, you'll really want to pay close attention. There are exactly 7 hidden signs of feline jealousy that most owners completely miss, usually just brushing them off as weird cat behavior.
Think about it. We are so culturally conditioned to expect jealousy to be this loud, obvious thing, right? While a golden retriever might bark, cry, or literally create a dramatic scene to get your attention back, cats do the exact opposite. They go quiet, they watch from afar, and they basically plot their subtle little interventions. They're internalizing this shift in the household dynamic rather than just broadcasting it. All right, let's jump into our first category of behaviors, physical demands for attention, which are basically active bids for your focus. Under this umbrella, we have sudden grooming, physical blocking, and knocking things over. Now, these are active, and let's be totally honest, sometimes incredibly frustrating interventions. To the untrained eye, knocking a glass of water onto your laptop just looks like a quirky cat antic. But there is some really intense psychology bubbling beneath the surface when your cat decides to physically insert themselves right into your space to reclaim your focus. Let's zoom in on that sudden, intense grooming for a second. If your cat frantically washes themselves right after you pet another animal, that's not a coincidence. It's what we call a classic displacement behavior. They're experiencing this massive rush of negative emotion, jealousy, confusion, rejection, that they simply can't act on directly. So what do? They redirect that overwhelming energy into a familiar, self-soothing action. It looks incredibly calm and normal on the outside, but it's actually a vital coping mechanism for their emotional discomfort. Then there's physical blocking. Picture this. You sit down to hold a new baby, and your cat casually strolls over and literally places their body directly between you and the infant. They aren't just trying to join a cuddle puddle. No, this is a highly calculated territorial move. By breaking your line of sight with the new addition, they are actively and physically reclaiming their status as the absolute center of your universe. And this brings us to the classic knocking things off tables. People almost always assume this is just cats being cats, but timing is everything here. If they swat your pen away specifically while you're heavily focused on a new partner or a guest, it is 100% intentional. Because to a smart, slightly jealous cat, negative attention still absolutely beats no attention at all. Even an angry scolding proves they've successfully stolen your focus away from whatever was distracting you. You looked at them, you spoke to them, and in their mind, they won that round. Moving right along, let's look at the flip side of this in our second category, anxious withdrawals and shifts, which is really driven by insecurity and a fear of replacement. Here we enter a much more vulnerable side of jealousy. We're looking at total avoidance, excessive meowing, increased marking, and what's known as the shadow phase. Rather than boldly demanding your attention or causing a massive ruckus, these specific behaviors stem from a heartbreaking insecurity. It's a genuine worry that they're losing their established, safe place in your family, which triggers a major shift in how they fundamentally interact with their environment. It's actually fascinating how differently cats handle this deep-seated insecurity. Some fall into total avoidance. They might completely hide under the bed or retreat to the top shelf of a closet, just flat out refusing to be in the same room as a new baby or pet out of pure anxiety. They aren't annoyed, they're withdrawing to protect themselves. But then, on the exact flip side, a normally quiet cat might suddenly start excessively meowing. They desperately compete for airspace, vocalizing the absolute second you join a video call or start chatting with someone else. They're literally filling the silence to make sure they aren't forgotten. Now, when it comes to increased marking, it almost always follows a specific escalating progression. First, the cat feels deeply threatened by some perceived competition in the home. They sense a shift in resources, mainly your time and your affection. Next thing you know, you might notice them acting out, like aggressively rubbing their cheeks against door frames, or worse, having accidents outside the litter box. Finally, we realize why this is happening. These are acute stress responses. Your cat is desperately trying to reassert territorial control via scent marking. They're trying to drop an anchor in a space where they feel they are rapidly losing their grip. And then we have the shadow phase. You might see this and think, oh, they're just being so incredibly affectionate lately. But a jealous cat trailing your every single footstep from the kitchen to the living room isn't showing pure affection. It's an anxious attachment. They've become your shadow because they are literally afraid to let you out of their sight. It's obsessive monitoring to make sure that the moment you're out of view, you are immediately replacing them with a new perceived threat. So let's tie all of this together in our final section, translating your cat's language and what all of this really means for you.
When we step back and look at these 7 behaviors as a collective language, the grooming, the blocking, the knocking things over, the avoiding, the meowing, the marking, and the shadowing, a really powerful picture emerges. None of these actions are explosive or dramatic on their own, which is exactly why we so often miss them, right? We just write them off as a cat having a weird day. But together, this isn't a pet acting out maliciously to ruin your favorite rug or disrupt your work. This is a highly intelligent, sensitive animal navigating some incredibly complex emotions. They're silently begging for your reassurance and love in the only way they know how. Understanding this completely transforms how we respond to their jealousy.
So take a quick second to reflect on your own feline friend. Have you been completely misreading a displacement behavior or a shadow phase as just cats being cats? If your pet displays even 3 of these behaviors during a life transition, which sign hits closest to home for you? Drop a thought in your own mind about that, and thank you so much for joining us for this explainer. We'll catch you next time as we continue to decode the hidden lives of the animals we love.